Well, and just in case you didn't know it, Happy Father's Day. The very beginning of the slide was a picture last year that of my dad and Kobe and I and then my uncle. It's one of those things that one of the times you think about, yes, I have one dad. And just in case we do look alike, this is my dad. There's a strong resemblance. My cousin, my uncle's son, looks like my dad. And I look like my uncle. No, nothing happened, anything weird. It's just genetics, folks. That's all it is. It's just pure genetics. Even the mannerism when I was growing up, that the older people who knew my uncle when he was my age they were starting to get a little bit old. We'll leave it at that because I'm getting old. But they would call me Bob, which is my uncle. They never called me my dad, but they called me Bob. And there was one time that I looked at a picture of my cousin and asked, I don't remember Dad ever looking like that. No, it wasn't. That was your cousin. Oh, genetics are strong. You think about all the dads you've had in your life. We get blessed with a lot of dads. Like I said, my biological dad is here alive. He's here. He taught me a lot of great things. Attitude, work ethics, servanthood, heart for a family. Taught me values, love of people. Taught me a love of God. Just kind of that idea and that heart and that attitude of loving others. But one of the cool things that's happened in my journey, and I think in your journey, even for you the kids, be thinking about it because I'm going to ask you a question about Dad in a minute, kids, so be ready. Is I've been blessed with having a couple other dads come in my life. They didn't replace my dad. My dad is my dad. My daughter decided when she was about 3 to call him Papa. That's how my parents got their names, Papa and Nana. Kobe came along and said, nope, we're changing it because he likes to abbreviate everything, Pops. And then my nephew came along and said, nope, he just calls him Pop. So it's kind of this, I don't know if it's just the males in our family, we like to shrink things down, I'm not quite sure on that. But we have other dads that have helped enhance my life. First other dad that I can remember is Neil. He is passed on. No, John passed on. John had cancer. He was my first youth pastor that I really got to know well. And it was interesting to hang out with him. Neil is still, I talk to Neil on Facebook and follow him a little bit. And Neil was one of the ones that when I first started working with teenagers, that he was living in a double-wide trailer, and silly him, he decided to have the youth group over without his wife there. And it was kind of a bad rainy day, and so we put plastic down on the floor because we were having some water thing. I don't exactly remember, except that we covered the walls with water. He got in trouble, had to sleep in the doghouse for a while. But I learned how to destroy a house by doing that, and then his kids have come over in our house. Yeah, well, they paid me back, so it's okay. And then the other dad I have is my uncle. My uncle's been one of those things that has helped me, especially in going through the process and journey of my life, that's helped me give an understanding to my own life and my history of who I am and how I am and why I respond the way I do. My uncle retired from being a pastor after 52 years and has his doctorate in theology and counseling and all this stuff, and so it's been real helpful. But I always look back to my dad and go, I learned some valuable lessons about life from my dad. So kids, not on the spot for 4 of you, because I'm not going to let Austin, doesn't have to say anything yet, or Michaela either. But what is something about, you guys are off because Dad's fishing, so you know. What is something that you learned from your dads about life? Go. Okay, that was good. Anything?
How to drive better.
How to drive better. If you watch Jeannie's Facebook post, you know that she was had to dye her hair after the first time of Christopher driving because he almost hit 2 cars, if I remember correctly.
One.
Oh, he corrected it. 1. And the curb. And the curb.
I went up on the curb.
Nothing will make you greater than teaching your children to drive. Thankfully, my wife taught my children how to drive mainly, so with her hair color, can't really tell, but I wouldn't have any black hairs. Teaching you how to drive better. What else?
Teaching you how to fish better.
Teaching you how to fish better. That's always an important thing to have. It's a good trait to have.
Humility.
Humility, being humble. Especially in this day and age, that's an unheard of trait. Humbleness and humility. Adults, you can get in You Are Still Kids about your dad. I'll always be my dad's son. I may be taller, but I'll always be his son.
My dad taught me fiscal responsibility.
Physical?
Fiscal responsibility.
Fiscal responsibility. I thought physical responsibility. What's physical responsibility? Fiscal responsibility. Physical responsibility? No. Fiscal responsibility? Yes. Well, you learned the physical by doing all your marathons and running stuff, so you're good on that one. You've learned that on your own well. Anyone else?
How to not be upset when you don't do it.
That's not an easy one, is it? How to not be upset when you don't do as good as you think you should. That's how I put it. Right idea? Yeah, you kind of say, here's my goal, here's my mark. Oh man, and I fell short. And as well as mom gave me that pick-me-up, dad was that encourager. It had a different piece to it. It's fun how God puts that together, yeah? Anyone else? Don't feel like you have to.
Prioritize people.
Prioritize people. That's a great one.
Work ethic.
Work ethic. Yeah, your dad doesn't work very much. Yeah. You know, Greg, at all, that was sarcasm, by the way. Just in case those who watch Big Bang or Sheldonites, you don't get sarcasm, so I had to make sure I understood that was sarcasm. Work ethic. It's a great one. Anyone else?
Value of family.
Value of family. That's been big on my dad, too. Just the priorities of coming up for graduations and other things, and 18th birthdays and 16th birthdays, and all those key pieces. One of the things I've learned as I've grown older is that all the dads play an aspect and part of my life, but they move away. Neil and John that I talked about earlier, obviously John is passed. He plays no part of my life anymore other than what he taught me early on. Neil, I hadn't seen in, oh my gosh, I can't remember how long, probably 20, 30 years minimum. And when I was back home one time a couple years ago, we got together for coffee, and it was one of the strangest things to pick up where we left off, but that's kind of where we are. He writes really funny Facebook posts, usually about being in trouble with his wife still. But it's one of those things that as I've moved away, I've moved on. And sometimes it's not physically that I've moved on, but I just have moved, and God put them in that season for that journey and that part of my life that I needed. One of the things when I had look at all my dads and look at my dad is I had to learn to trust. I had to learn, do you really care about me? That's a really hard thing in our day and age to do anymore. My cousin and I had a conversation on Facebook yesterday. I can't remember where I posted it from. It said something, everything on the internet is true. Abraham Lincoln. You know history, Abraham Lincoln, there wasn't even electricity at that point, so that obviously was not the internet. And then my cousin jumps in, oh, I thought it was, who did she put? She put somebody else, and I said George Washington. Oh, she put Teddy Roosevelt. I put George Washington. Oh, she put Gandhi in there. We have this online going goofy, because in our day and our age and our culture, it's getting harder and harder to trust. I'd always ask the safe question, are you a safe person I can share at a heart level with? Can I tell you something that's at a heart level and you keep it there? Can I share with you and will it be kept safe what I share without judging me? Without looking down at me? Can I use maybe inappropriate language because I'm really hurt and I need to vent? And as I vent, as I lash out, that lack of judgment is still not there? That I'm still loved as I am, even though I'm not as I should be. I still am loved as I am. As my life has gone on, my dad has been there for me, and my uncle, about 15 years ago, became an integral part of my life. He really wasn't the first 36 years of my life. We saw each other once every 5 years. Now we talk still at least once a month. But how do you have that dad that's always there, that will answer the call, that you can text, that you can handle my good times, and those times where TJ Hurricane comes out? I used to think I didn't need to have that. As I've gotten older, I realize I need that more and more. As life happens and as life goes on, I come back to the point of I need a safe place to go. I thought I could do it all on my own. Sounds like the world, doesn't it? Just ask me your question and I'll tell you your answer and do that and you'll be fine. But don't ask me if I've tried that in my own life, because I'm seeing if it'll work in yours. I thought I could pull off all the changes in my life by myself. I learned I fall short. I learned I need that dad in my life. The message, or Matthew says this. It's Matthew 19 and 26. The message says, Jesus looked hard at them and said, no chance at all if you think you can pull it off yourself. I love this, the way that Matthew writes this. He says, every chance in the world if you trust God to do it. You ever been there? There is no way I can do this, but if I trust in God, then we can. The NIV says this. Jesus looked at him and said, with man this is impossible, with God all things are possible. Even as we hear the accounts of those who lost loved ones in Charleston. As I read, it's posted on the church's Facebook page, the response of our president, Gary Walters. That's what they're writing about. Christopher and I were talking before service. I don't know if I was one of those family members that lost a loved one that invited this guy into their community, their service, that if I could say what this lady said, is we invited and welcomed you into our Bible study, so we invite you and welcome you in to come to the body of Christ. That's not my human nature. My human nature is to lash out and you hurt me, let me hurt you. I do that way too often in my own journey in life. But their love of God, their understanding of Matthew 19. With man, this is impossible. With God, all things are possible. Just as I had to learn with my dads, I had to learn with God how to trust God. Because we have this wrong image of God. God is stoic and he's far away and he's ready to strike me, in my tradition growing up, strike me with a lightning bolt or hit me with a whip when I made a mistake. So I was always walking around in eggshells and in fear. I know in my life it takes time to trust a person. Even those who mean well, because they're human, fall short. There's no one that I can trust with 100% completeness that they will follow through. Trust me, they try hard and they try well, but they're human. We're all going to fall short. All I got to do is ask my kids. I try the best I can with them. But I still fall short with my kids. I try to be the best dad I can. I try to provide them, not give them, but provide them with what they really need. And I still mess up and I still fall short. How do you trust God? What do you trust him with? Do you trust him with only those things he already knows? Well, God, I got a speeding ticket because the officer pulled me over and gave me that ticket. So I got that, so we're good on that one, right? I don't have to talk about that. But in my heart, I'm like, man, I'm really angry about this, and that's why I was driving really fast. And I don't want to share that with you, God. We're willing to share at that heart level with God. That's what he wants. One of my issues is I trust God with some things, but other things I think he needs help because they're too big. With the little things, I'm really easy to go, okay, God, here you go. With Charleston, I pray probably a number of times a day for the people in Charleston and the families that lost their loved ones. There's nothing I can do. I can pray. But now when it comes to my things, all right, God, I need to fix this. This is what I need to do. And God's like, oh my gosh, TJ, do you not get it? No, you need to come and, do you think you can pull it off yourself? Can you come and trust me? When I try to do it myself, I get tired, I get worn out, I get beat up, I get frustrated. Even as preparing for this morning, God's Spirit just keeps bringing me back to this phrase out of Matthew 11. You know it. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart. And you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. J.B. Phillips translates it a little bit different. Come to me, all you weary, and I like this, the phrase he puts, overburdened. And I like that imagery in there, in the overburdened. NIV says burden. We have to work and do life, gang. That's a burden in itself. Some mornings getting up is way harder than other mornings. But when Phillips talks about this overburden, when I'm overflowing with too many things that I'm carrying, when I'm in a backpacking realm and my backpack is too full and I have to carry things with my hands because nothing will fit on my pack or in my pack anymore. We just got back from a trip and we're trying to figure out how do we get all the garbage stuff we brought back from Orlando. How do we get that back and carry it on? And that idea of overburdened. And learning to trust God, I need to remember he doesn't respond the way I do as a dad sometimes. Hard, closed, angry. His response is always gentle and always loving. My goal is to be that kind of dad someday. In order to be that kind of dad, I need to hang out with my Abba more, not less. The more I allow God's Spirit to work in my heart and transform me, the more I'm able to respond in that gentle, loving, compassionate way. And not that hard and closed and angry way that I sometimes do. Don't get me wrong though. It's not this laissez-faire attitude that God has. There is still a consequence for my mistakes. If I'm speeding because I'm angry and I get a ticket, I deserve that ticket. Bottom line. Shouldn't have been speeding. I have a thing on my truck called cruise control. Punch it, sit there, and then drive versus push it down and punch it and go. But as I'm getting older, I'm learning how to be a better dad. Learning how to be a loving dad. Am I perfect? Not by a long shot. The analogy is this. Just as we get older, we have to eat better and work out more. So this goes back to not the physical responsibility that Lisa's dad talked about, but as I get older, I have to learn that in relationship with my Abba, I need to spend time more with him, not less. The older I get, the less I know about who God is. Because God continually amazes me. The families in Charleston, South Carolina are a great example of that. God, I pray that if I was ever in that scenario and situation, that would be my response. I don't see how they could respond that way. With God, all things are possible. When I think about my own physical ability, a couple of years ago, I was like, I'm getting big. I need to do something to become healthy. And I've lost some weight and I got some muscle mass, and the more I exercise, the more I'm fit to do things I want to do, fish, yard work, etc. Same thing goes in that spiritual realm with our Abba, with God. The more I'm fit in my relationship with God, the more I trust God, the more I give to God sooner, the more free I am, the less I'm burdened. as the verse shares. Philip said this: bodily fitness has certain values, but spiritual fitness is essential for this present life and the life to come. There is no doubt about it, and Christians should remember it, because we realize the paramount importance of the spiritual that we labor and struggle. We place our whole confidence in the living God, the Savior of all, particularly those who believe in Him. So we celebrate Father's Day today. Think about the lessons you've learned from your dad, those said and those unsaid. Think about the lessons we learn from our Abba, what he really is like and what he is not like. Maybe your dad isn't here anymore. I know that's the case for a number of us in this room. Some may not even know who their dad is. Some may have a dad that, if that's their imagery of God, they want no part of God. I've had that conversation with a number of people. There's a friend of ours that Chane and I know, and his name is Josh. I remember taking Josh to a camp one time, and Josh made the most profound statement after the camp that one of the most profound that I probably have ever heard. See, for Josh's graduation, he was hoping a guy would walk into the school and into his graduation service and ceremony and say, "Hi, congratulations, Josh, I'm your dad." He goes, "I don't know who my dad is. I have no idea who my dad is." As we went to camp, as he came in, as Timothy talks about in this spiritual relationship with our Abba, with God, as we're kind of sitting around afterwards and we're talking, he goes, I apologize for the language, parents, but he goes, "I thought I was a bastard child all my life. I never realized I had a daddy all along." Will we deepen our relationship with God and exercise our spiritual realm as much as we do our physical one? Don't get me wrong, I don't work out in the summer because we're fishing and we're doing yard work, so I don't do a whole lot of working out. Come September, probably I'll get back into the gym and start to do the cardio and wish I wouldn't have taken the time off. But right now, I don't do that. But will I spend as much time and focus on that in my relationship with God, or in my relationship with my Father, my Abba, my Daddy, as I do in my physical realm? If we do so, then we find out that our Abba will carry our load. Life will be easier. We don't have to do it alone. I don't have the overburdenedness that I have before. It's that imagery. Will we come before our God and say, "God, here's my stuff"? I pray so. But it's that choice and that opportunity that God gives us. Regardless of how your parent is, your father is, God is not them. He wants that deep intimacy. We're able to come and to trust. We're able to come and say, "Daddy, here you go." As we prepare this morning for communion, take your time and take your heart. Say, "God, here you go. Here's these things that I'm struggling with." Maybe one of the first times ever you take that time and, "God, here it is." Abba, thanks for the examples that we have. Thanks that we get to celebrate this day of fathers. And God, even more importantly, that reminder of you are that incredible Abba, that incredible Daddy. God, thanks for the reminder that you are there when we're overburdened, when we have those things, that you are only a prayer away. And you desire and you want us to trust, to love, to come to you. So God, as we prepare our hearts this morning for communion, help us to come out of the sadness, come out of our brokenhearted, and let the rescue of you begin. The overburdenedness, that overwhelmedness, that we can leave with you. In your name, amen.